But as for the rest, and actually I could show you GDP because I showed this one on the.
Before he does that, guys, put your comments down below if you have any. If you're watching this later, put your comments down below. Call me out. Call me an idiot. I don't care. Try to get to the bottom. You guys might turn a light bulb on for me, or I might turn a light bulb on for you. So have at it in the comments.
I showed this one on the exhibit as well. So here's GDP over like 200 years of the U.S. It's an exponential growth, and it's exponential because if you put it on log scale, it's a straight line, right? Okay. So there's the Great Depression, fell way below the all-time trend here after October 1929. And then, interestingly, if you look at the growth of the 80s in particular, and then into the internet age, you see that we're up at the top end of this trend. So we actually are above trend. And I don't trade this. I'm not saying that this is like gospel or something. Maybe someone can go back and find some more interesting data. And it looks like I have no idea why.
I'll point out a couple things here before he continues. 1971. If we go up from there, let me try to go up as straight as I can. Right on trend in 1971. What happens after 1971, guys? What happens after 1971? Growth accelerates. And it stays higher for a very long time. Until when? When it stays at this upper percentile band, which is plus 2.5% higher than normal. Until when? The Great Financial Crisis. And I wish I could zoom in on this a little bit more, because that is just pretty amazing that this acceleration really starts right here in 1971. It's above trend for a very long time until 2008. And what happens then? The trend slows back down. It opens up this tiniest gap here between this top percentile and the mean. It slows down. Well, that's not good. That's not good, because in a credit-based system, you need to continue to expand or you have contraction. Now, I'm not saying that a credit-based system is the best. I'm not saying that we need to get back and fix this credit-based system or anything like that. I'm just pointing out the facts here, that in a credit-based system, if you have slowed growth, you will have defaults. Period. I'm not trying to put a value judgment on it one way or the other. I'm telling you what is happening. And what is happening right now is growth is slowing, which is death for a credit-based system. And when did that credit-based system really kick off? Hard? 1971. I mean, it did kick off even earlier, back after World War II, because the Eurodollar system started like in the 50s. And then it really came roaring to life in the 70s after the gold window stopped. But you can see that was a period of rising growth. Growth rates were continuing to go higher. And then in 2008, Great Financial Crisis, something broke and growth has slowed. And that is the death knell for a credit-based system. I'll also point out, I dislike charts like this that go back this far, because it's a completely different economy. Completely different economy. I mean, you don't want to compare yourself to the 18th century where 95% of people lived on farms. Agriculture was, 90% of the economy. Yeah, they had high growth rates back then, but there's probably whatever technology was invented that was making this growth rate really high for agricultural societies. And then I'll note, once they go this period, actually, where was this? About 1871, right? That's where roughly the classical gold standard starts. People aren't going to like this, but I'm using his data. Okay, 1871, which is interesting that it was 100 years before 1971. I just realized that. 1871, classical gold standard in the world. Germany goes on the gold standard, all that. And what happens to growth? Starts missing trend. We go on to a commodity standard. We're on like a silver standard stuff, a bimetallic standard. But we go on to the world goes on to the classical gold standard. And what happens to growth? It goes below trend. It goes below trend, people. What happens when credit-based money happens? It goes above trend. You see the difference? Gold standard, below trend. Credit standard, above trend growth. That's plain as day. And so if we go back to a commodity standard, which I think we will, I'm a Bitcoin bug, a Bitcoiner. I think we're going back to a commodity standard, and that commodity standard will be Bitcoin. But what should we expect from growth? We should expect it to be below trend, just like this chart tells us.
Why it's like above trend, right? On in the early 1800s, I mean, the United States wasn't that great, and they had a lot of national debt at that point. But whatever. In any event, the all-time trend is if you did the if you measured the slope of this curve, okay, the all-time trend of GDP is, and I'm not showing it here, but it is 5%. So that's the just all-time slope of this black line.
I'll say this: that imagine being our parents, like my parents in the 80s and 90s, when they had this above trend growth. Those are the boomers now, right? The boomers had this, they enjoyed this above trend growth. We're enjoying a slowing growth in a credit bubble. Very big difference.
Per year, 5% per year. And you see that on a dollar basis, 28 trillion and change ending June, where the trend line is only 17 trillion. So again, this depending on how much data you take, the trend line's not really important here.
And they're also measuring,
just to show you really.
Oh, I wanted to get that green part. Hold on, where he's showing the green.
And
there we go. So you can see it comes away from this line, right? So the slope of this from the great financial crisis after is below trend growth, because it's separating from that line, below trend growth. Because if it was down here on this black line, it would be going separating from the black line as well. So this is below trend growth, even though it is technically above this line, but it is the slope of it is what matters. It's slowing down. Now this little pop here is from COVID spending, because GDP is a flawed metric. It's the king of all macroeconomic metrics. It's the center of macroeconomic thought, and it's flawed because it includes government spending. There's different ways that they can manipulate what's counted for how much, and so it is a flawed metric, but it's the best thing we have right now. I would love to replace it in the future if that's possible, but for right now, the reason for this bump is because of the government spending during COVID. And it didn't even really do much. It just kind of brought us back to regular trend growth, but that's going to roll over again. This green growth is going to go sideways to down over the next 5 to 10 years. Out here to 2030, this will be probably below this black line by that time. So what does that do to a credit bubble? It makes it impossible to maintain.